This is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police post. On this segment, we take a look at some of the headlines that you might have missed this morning. We also take a look at some of the political pieces we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 20th of January 2022, and I am CS.
I am Serbia.
I am Miss Pope. In case you missed the headlines, here they are. Daily Nation, Oka factor in Raila, Ruto runoff. In the Standard, Raila's headache on Azimio seat sharing. The Star, Gachagua best for DP, Kenneth top for Raila. And the People Daily, Raila's tough balancing act on Azimio rallies. Sabia, why don't you initiate the proceedings?
Thank you, Miss Pope. So today I want to call out the Star, who have put up the results of a misleading poll as their headline. The poll numbers indicate that Gachagua, a clearly underwhelming project, is best as Ruto's running mate. These numbers should be taken with a grain of salt. But let us plead temporary insanity and contemplate the thought of a Gachagua vice presidency for a brief moment. We have said in the past that electability is about projecting personal characteristics. These then enable the public to envision the candidate as a president or deputy president. One of those characteristics is visibility. Yes, Gachagua is very much visible, but for all the wrong reasons. This is a man with a dodgy past and an intro which is overflowing with numerous scandals. In the spirit of birds of a feather, Ruto brings lingering questions about Kiambaa, and Gachagua brings lingering questions on what transpired in the 1992 clashes in Molo, where he served as district officer. The pair also bring a truckload of controversies surrounding the source of their immense wealth. What is it they have innovated, invented, or even manufactured that turned them into overnight billionaires? These were the same questions asked about Moi and Biwot's billions. If these two are made president and vice president, the only development that Kenyans will see is character development.
Point blank period.
So why is Ruto picking these kind of leaders from the Gamer Nation? He told us that he has a plan for dealing with Kikuyus, and this is clearly part of his strategy. Why do we say so? One way of destroying your enemy is by supporting a weak leader amongst their ranks to rise to leadership. That way, when you encounter them in battle, you are confident that the opposition will be weak. And this reflects what is typical about UDA and the people in their ranks. From Gachagua, who is implicated in money laundering, to Kawanjiko, who can't even express himself in parliament, even if his life depended on it. And this is a tactic he has borrowed from the school of Moism. Remember, Moi dumped on us the likes of Kariuki Chotara, Mulumotisia, Kuria Kanyinge, and JJ Kamodo. Leaders he could basically control and manipulate. Ruto's number one priority is winning. And if he is desperate to win, we should not be surprised if he resorts to desperate measures. If Ruto connived to have Waiguru ejected from cabinet and reduced her credentials to catwalking, and yet Waiguru is now one of the number one disciples of the false prophet from Sugoi, this means Ruto is not averse to having strange bedfellows. So, in his desperation to win, let us not be surprised if he starts quoting Mother Karua. But in order for this to happen, something will have to die in Mother Karua. Sure enough, history teaches us that many principled leaders have sacrificed their principles at the altar of elective politics. A Ruto Karua ticket is what we would call a black swan moment. Even though it belongs in the realm of the improbable, it is not impossible.
Interesting. So here at the Fortal School of Government, we've hypothesized that a runoff is inevitable in the upcoming presidential elections. But not only will we have an engineered runoff, every step of the election process will be contested in court. As a matter of probability, it might take Kenyans more than 6 months to swear in the next president. So how do you engineer a runoff? You do so by taking the Mulembe Nation and the Kamba Nation away from Raila's and Ruto's equation. This way, neither Raila nor Ruto will marshal enough numbers to cross the 50% plus one vote threshold. With less than 200 days to the elections, Musalia Mudavadi is still insisting on running. Mr. Watermelon is also insisting on running, as he told us last weekend in Yatta. Unless the bearded sisters abandon their bandwagon, it is clear that their agenda is to engineer a runoff.
Very true.
Article 138(4) of the Constitution stipulates that for a candidate to be declared elected as president, the candidate must garner more than half of all the votes cast in the election and at least 25% of the votes cast in not less than 24 counties.
Yeah.
This particular provision is what will be exploited to lead us into a runoff. So here is how the elections will play out. If the elections are held on the 9th of August, the results should be announced by IEBC in 7 days. But before the engineered runoff takes place, the results of the election will be contested, as has been the norm in every election. It will take the Supreme Court 14 days to give their judgment. Then, 30 days later, a runoff will take place between the two candidates who garner the most votes. Once the runoff results are announced 7 days later by the IBC, someone will go to court to contest the results. Typical Kenyans being litigious. It will take court 14 days to give the ruling. At this point, we have the best case scenario where the court will uphold the results of the runoff and the 5th president will be sworn in. This will be around mid-November 2022. However, if the court nullifies the runoff results, we will have to conduct a fresh election. And the cycle will continue where someone will go to court, challenge the process or the results of the fresh elections, and at this point the country will be stuck in an election cycle that can last for more than 6 months. But back to my initial thoughts of an engineered runoff. One might ask, what is the point of engineering a runoff? And the answer is to form post-election coalitions or alliances. So whoever forms a formidable unifying movement wins the election. Therefore, on the 9th of August, the masses will vote in favor of their candidate. But in the runoff election, the masses will not only vote for a candidate, in favor of a candidate, but they will vote against the candidate they perceive to be a greater mkora. And last weekend, during the Azimio rally in Thika, Kenyans made it abundantly clear who they think mkora number one is when they started chants of Muizi, Muizi, Muizi. And when Agwambo Baba the Fifth asked them who Muizi is, they did not hesitate or stutter.
Mwizi ni nani? Mwizi ni nani? Mwizi ni nani?
So, in a runoff scenario where the choice comes down to Baba the Fifth on the one hand and the man who Kenyans have baptized as Mwizi on the other, the choice should be an easy one.
Definitely. Baba the Fifth it is. Now, let's visit the Supreme Court. A few weeks ago, as the president addressed the nation from Uhuru Gardens on Jamhuri Day, he highlighted the need to come together to mend a crack on the wall of our nation. The wall he was talking about is our constitution, and the crack on the wall has been caused by a defect in how the wall was designed. Defects that allowed the crack of ethnic majoritarianism and skewed representation to manifest. The president was categorical that the defects must be fixed and that BBI is simply a dream deferred. The question, therefore, of whether BBI will happen is not a matter of if, but simply a question of when. Thus, for one of the major obstacles that has faced the First Amendment to the Constitution is a pandemic of ignorance that has plagued those who are opposed to BBI. That is why when you hear lawyers arguing in the Supreme Court, you will never hear them saying anything bad about the good ideas in the First Amendment, such as increasing devolved funds to 35%. You will never hear them arguing against having a ward fund. Everyone, including the judges and lawyers, know these are good things. And so because they have found it impossible to make strong arguments against good ideas, they have instead resorted to making loud arguments against the president. But any reasonable person should ask themselves, What does presidential immunity have to do with sending money to counties, more money to counties? What does presidential immunity have to do with ensuring that corruption cases are dealt with faster so that more money can be directed towards development? The point is this. Those who are opposed to the First Amendment are suffering from a misguided illusion that fighting BBI equates to fighting President Uhuru. But BBI is not President Uhuru's. The vision may be his, but the fruits of his vision will be everyone's, including those who have been paid to oppose it. The most they can do is delay it, but you cannot kill a good idea. What we need to remember is that the legal fraternity is debating about how the document was generated. What the High Court and the Court of Appeal stopped effectively was a first draft. That document may be dead, but the ideas in it are alive and well. And that is why the president asserted that it is simply a dream deferred. And because there was wide support for it, starting from the collection of views across the country, the overwhelming support in 43 out of 47 counties, and the landslide victory in the National Assembly and in the Senate, this means that this whole process need not start again. We already know it has support. All that simply needs to be done is for the document to be slightly revised and to be tabled as a parliamentary initiative. The Constitution currently offers two ways to bring about a constitutional amendment, either through Article 257, popular initiative, or through an Article 256 parliamentary initiative. The issue of a referendum only arises if the amendment touches on any of the themes in Article 255. So you can still start the process in Parliament and end up at a referendum. And if you go through Parliament, you can then leave the lawyers to have their debate club and to pontificate about whether Junet Mohammed and Dennis Waweru were promoters. So when the president invites us to understand that the law is simply a tool in the service of justice, it is because it is easy to lose sight of what is important when we drown in legal arguments. The basic structure doctrine will not ensure county hospitals have enough medicine and medical equipment. The basic structure doctrine will not fight corruption, and it will not ensure that there is more money going to Mashinani. In fact, we would like to invite our fellow lawyers who are making Kenyans dizzy with Latin and poetry to remember the words of Jesus as documented in the Gospel according to St. Luke. You experts in the law, woe unto you, because you load people down with burdens they can hardly carry, and you yourselves will not even lift one finger to help them. In the final analysis, when all is said and done, the legal arguments will be forgotten in the public imagination, and they will be confined to the footnotes of law school dissertations. But the good ideas in BBI will never die. The most you can do is delay a good idea, but you cannot kill it. Now, a quick recap of the headlines today. Daily Nation, Oka factor in Raila Ruto runoff. In the Standard, Raila's headache on Azimio seat sharing. In the Star, Gachagua best for DP, Kenneth top for Raila. And in the People Daily, Raila's tough balancing act on Azimio allies. Do we have any winning headline? I think not. Yeah. The Star, the fact that Gachagua is even being considered for as a deputy president is just a scary headline. The People Daily, Raila's tough balancing act on Azimio allies, the same thing in the Standard. I think it's a good problem to have because so many people are supporting Raila that everyone wants to be included. That's a good problem to have. Whether you should have Gachagua as your running mate, that's a bad problem to have. And Ms. Pope has done an excellent prosecution of the Daily Nation, the Okta factor in Raila Ruto runoff, but that's not analytical. It's just stating the state of affairs.
We have no winning headline.
We have no winning headline, so I think we toss all of them. Now, quickly on to the cartoons. Ms. Pope, what's happening in the Daily Nation?
So in the Daily Nation, the cartoon portrays two people on one side representing and holding a banner saying small parties, and they're standing on a plank balancing off the edge of a cliff trying to get to the edge. And the other side, we have a gentleman seated and holding a piece of paper written Party Dissolution MOU. And I think this is in the context of the Political Parties Amendment Bill, which was intense actually to breathe new life into small parties. And it's unfortunate some people are still pushing for small parties to be swallowed
Exactly.
Yeah, by the big parties. And this goes beyond the principles of multipartyism. And so the political parties amendment bill is very much welcomed.
Yes. Yeah, the people holding the party dissolution MOU on that table are basically UDA. They're the ones who want to kill small parties. Now, in the Standard and in the Star, they're both talking about BBI and depicting the president and former prime minister as grave diggers. And it's quite unfortunate because, like we just said, the BBI document, that first draft, that may be dead, but those ideas in the BBI are alive and well. You can only delay a good idea, you cannot kill it. What do we have in the People Daily, Sabia?
So in the People Daily, we have two caricatures, one of Ruto driving his wheelbarrow saying, "Mtu ya vitendawili, my friend, you have sensed defeat," to Raila, portrayed with an orange as a stomach. Oh, wow. Raila then responds with "Nyef nyef kitendawili, you have sensed defeat." The two are convinced that the other has been defeated. So we are entering a season of high voltage politics where Ruto and Raila have started taking jabs directly at each other. So we should, I think, expect more of this in the coming months.
Yes, it's in the nature of politics. And that has been the Fifth Estate winning headlines. Please do remember to join us and watch us on GoTV, paying free to air, Star Times. You can also follow our social media handles at Twitter at Chaka Sichangi. And Sabia, what's yours?
Miss Kimiri on Twitter.
And Miss Pope.
You can also follow us at Fifth Estate KE.
Yeah, we leave you with this quote: "You cannot build a reputation on what you are going to do." That was said by Henry Ford. We dedicate it to William Ruto. Your reputation already precedes you. Do have a good night.